Hi, and welcome to the Acquiring Productive Skills course. This course will teach you how to obtain those productive skills that will help you build your business. Speed reading is a really great skill to acquire. This doesn't mean you need to break any records with your reading speed. But what if you could cut your reading time in half? Now that could prove to be really darn productive. In any business, you will need to read several things such as paperwork, reports, revisions of your own writing, and even some books to better your own business. This can become quite a workload when you look at it. But it doesn't need to be a daunting task, because there are things you can do to increase your reading speed and cut down the time spent reading. The first is to get your eyes checked out. A lot of times, people have problems reading fast, simply because their eyes need some attention. Set up an appointment with an eye doctor and find out if you need some corrective lenses. Those lenses could be the deciding factor in your reading speed. Once your eyes have been checked, or you have already had checked them, then you need to time your current reading speed. If you don't know what you're working with, you won't know if you've gotten any faster. You should time yourself on a few different pages with a few different kinds of reading material. This way, you can get a good average speed of what you read for different material. Obviously, a textbook won't read like a fiction novel, and business paperwork isn't going to read like an ebook. After you have determined your average reading speed for your materials, you should remove all distractions when you are getting ready to read. You shouldn't be sitting in a room where the TV is on and the radio is blaring, because there will be too many other things going on to actually concentrate on what's in front of you. Find a nicely lit room so you aren't squinting to read with no outside noise. It's okay if you are sitting outside and nature is making its own sounds, because this is actually soothing rather than distracting. Now that you've got your reading area, you need to focus on stopping two mistakes that almost everyone does when they read, and that is rereading and reading to themselves. Everyone has a really bad habit jumping back and forth between where they are in their reading and where they were. You need to train yourself not to jump back to what you've already read, because this is going to slow you down no matter how fast you read. The other thing is reading to yourself. Everyone tends to do this as well, whether they realize it or not. Have you ever caught yourself moving your lips as you read? Or in your head, you hear your voice slowly taking every word you read? Well, this will slow your progress down drastically. It's pretty simple to avoid doing this once you are aware of it. When you feel your lips moving, or catch yourself pronounce every single word in your head, simply stop doing it. After a while of catching yourself doing this, you will stop altogether. Finally, you must train yourself to skim read. Now, this is very important and probably the biggest factor in learning to speed read. You must be able to skim through your material while still comprehending what you've just read, because after all, it really doesn't matter how fast you can read if you don't remember anything from your material. This simply takes some practice, and you will be able to skim read no problem. For example, look at an ebook. Almost every ebook has its important parts bolded and in a much larger side than the rest of the text. This is done specifically for skim reading. Sometimes you can get all your information from these points that have been outlined for you other times. You need to see the point yourself. Again, this all just takes a little patience. Just as important as speed reading is speed writing. There's a lot that you have to write throughout the day, and it can take up a lot of time. Learning how to speed write can cut your time down drastically and increase productivity in any aspect of your business. Again, you don't need to be setting any world records with your writing, so if at first you're not going too fast, don't worry about it. Practice makes perfect and you will reach your goals. The first thing you need to do, just as with your reading, you need to remove any and all distractions. Place yourself in a room without TV and music. These are simple distractions, but they will completely slow your work down. A nice well-lit area with as little noisy interruptions as possible would be the perfect place for you to practice your speed writing. You heard that right, practice. You need to practice this skill to perfect it. Once you are in your distraction-free zone, you need to lay out your plan. You should have all of your facts that you are using in your writing and any references ready right next to your workspace. You do this so that you don't have to run around looking for materials. If you are not organized properly before you even start, then you are dooming yourself to a very slow process. Think about it. If every time you need to reference something, you have to get up and go find it like your short article or paper could turn into a couple-hour process. You should lay out the structure of what you're writing on a little notepad next to your workspace, because this will keep you on track the whole time. You don't want to lose track of what you're doing and where your writing is going. This will give your final product a beautiful structure. There is one more great trick to help you run through your writing process. This little trick has been used by a lot of different writers to get some of their work out very quickly. What you need to do is gather up your facts for your article and write a body for your article first. For example, if you are writing articles on how to write an article quickly, write out your steps first, like so. Step 1. Gather your facts in a place close to your workspace for good reference. Step 2. Write the body or meat of your article first. Step 3. Write an opening paragraph that tells the reader what you're about to tell them. Step 4. Write a closing paragraph that tells the reader what you just told them. This may sound a bit crazy, but give it a try because it really works, and many people use this type of layout to write 300-word articles in under 10 minutes. Now be sure to expand each thing much more than it is here, because this is just to give you the idea. After you have gathered your facts and written out your steps, you will need an opening and closing paragraph. This is just as simple as the steps laid out above. Write a few sentences in your opening paragraph that's simply telling them what you are about to tell. For instance, you could say, in this article, you will learn how to write an article quickly. You will understand the steps it takes to create this article and learn how to do it over and over again. Again, you should expand on this, but you get the idea. Now the same thing goes for the closing paragraph, except you need to tell the reader what you just told. For example, you have just learned how to write a fast article, and you can implement these tactics immediately to jumpstart your article marketing. You can easily use this layout more than once, and you'll be able to pump out article after article, and the more you practice, the faster you will get. Pareto's principle was developed in the early 1900s by an economist by the name of Wilfred Pareto. It was his observation that the wealthy and the poor were drastically split by 80-20. This 80-20 meant that 20% of the people in his area made up 80% of the wealth in his area. Now, that doesn't mean much for you right now, but what it has been attributed since then to a very useful productivity tool. The way the rule goes is that 20% of your daily tasks make up 80% of what you've accomplished. This is the most important 20%, obviously, so you need to focus more of your time on it. Your 20% of tasks may differ from person to person, and sometimes even day to day, but focusing on that important 20% will skyrocket your productivity. The 80-20 rule basically boils down to focusing 80% of your energy and efforts into that 20% that will be the most important. Identifying the 20% may take a minute, but it will be easy to follow once you have your tasks in order. Let's say that the first 10% of your day is incredibly important, and so is the last 10%. Well, in that case, then you would want to focus your first 40% of time and energy on the first 10% and the last 40% on the last 10%. As another example, you should read only 2 or 3 books that would impact 80% of your life or business. Reading 8 books that only help you 30% is just not adequate. You'd be wasting too much time reading without enough positive effect on you or your situation. If you can cut it down to the 20% of reading that affect 80% of your life or business, then you have just used Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule. Applying Pareto's principle of 80-20 can drastically increase productivity and should be practiced. Although Pareto may have attributed his law to his economy at the time, it has been moved on to management skills and has adapted phenomenally.